Jon Roman. Okay, so the song is supposed to end with "Love Your Life," and my comment here is for you to ask you to remember that song when you close on your next successful exit. However, for now, I just want to ask you to close your eyes, take a deep breath, and imagine you are outside of your office or a storefront, looking at the business you built for years. The memories of that business are still fresh, that there's still the times when this idea was stretched on a napkin or drafted on the brainstorming, late night brainstorming session. Fast forward to all the sleepless nights, challenges we faced, risks you took, successes you had, sacrifices you made. You watched your business grow through the good times and the bad. You can open your eyes. Now you're at different crossroads. After so many years operating the business, thoughts are coming to your mind about the right timing of selling your business, stepping away, moving on with your life. And the flood of questions hit you suddenly. What will happen next? How is my business going to fare? How is my legacy going to be preserved? What's going to happen with me and my family? Will I get the right amount of money for all the effort that I made in all these years? Because let's face it, selling a business is not just about the financial gain, but it's also transferring something you put your life into in great hands. And this is exactly what I'm going to talk about today. Preparing yourself for a great exit with purpose, planning, and profit. So not just you're going to get your financial gain, but also you're going to leave your legacy intact. You're going to see today 5 important questions that you need to ask yourself when you're getting ready to exit. They're all very important. And you may feel that there are some cases that I'll be talking about repetitive, but they're not. Pay attention to the details, because each one of them is different. Buyers, when they look into a business, they just don't see the numbers, but they see opportunity, stability, and risk. Their first questions are, how is this business going to thrive without you in it? Is it scalable? Is it transferable? So let's start with the financial health. Obviously, financial statements are important. They need to be clear and transparent. But they want to see a quality of earnings. And it's not the quality of earnings our friends from CLA are working on, but it's more about the revenue itself. Is it safe? Is it constant? Or is floating widely year after year? If your revenue and profit has been growing for the past few years, you have a great foundation. However, that's just the first thing they're looking into. Second, they are interested to see how diverse your revenue sources are. Are you depending on just one buyer, one product, one service, or one vendor? Because that's very risky. For example, David, former client of ours, he owned a mid-sized software company building custom solutions for small and mid-sized logistic companies. He worked for a decade to bring his TW company to be a strong player in that specific sector. After having strong revenues and profits year after year, he thought it was the time for him to sell. He connected with a few buyers and received an offer that was significantly lower than the price expectation he had. Why? Because 80% of his revenue came from 2 big clients. That's very risky. If one of them leaves, the business will take a huge hit. Luckily for him, he was not desperate to sell. He still had time. So he took a step back, regrouped, and thought about what needs to be done in order for him to have a successful exit. So he reached out to smaller players, smaller companies in the market, and started serving them as well. I want to say it's very simple for us business owners to get comfortable, and that's what he did, and he recognized that. He had strong revenue coming from these 2 clients, didn't have a lot of work into it. Profits were high because there was the same systems in place, so he thought it's fine. His revenues were his profits were through the roof. His net income was very high compared to the market. However, after getting this feedback from the sellers, from the buyers, he decided, as I mentioned, to restructure. So on top of accepting to work with smaller, much stable businesses, he also came up with new services that he provided to these companies, and they were not dependent just on the major player. By doing all this stuff, he secured himself a good mix of revenue sources. And he changed his business to an operation that was constantly growing, but now was risk adverse. So he encouraged the buyers to come in with much higher offers, which happened. He got an offer that was much higher than what his initial expectation was. The bottom line here is that buyers are not just buying into revenues, but they also buy into security. So, his patience and reorganization of the entire thing, he paid off. Next, the buyers don't really care about your hustle. As tough as that sounds, they acknowledge it, they respect it, they just don't pay for it. So they want to have a business that is running as a well-oiled machine without the business to be involved, without the owner to be involved into it. Because let's face it, if your hands is in every aspect of your business and then you decided to leave, what happens with the business? The people behind you will not be able to handle everything that you know. That's why creating operational efficiency is critical. You need systems, processes, people that can help you to run the business and not just doing it on your own. Perfect example is Elaine. She owned a online clothing boutique that started off in her garage. They were selling eco-friendly, sustainable fashion. And through hard work and determination, she managed to transform her business. Elaine managed to transform her business into a trending operation with loyal customers. However, as a typical founder, she had her hands in everything. She was doing pretty much everything that a good founder does, from handling inventory to returns, shipping logistics, replying at the middle of the night to customers on their emails, thinking about new models, what else can they bring as far as inventory. So when and because of all this, the business was growing, don't get me wrong. It was a great business for her, but it was what we call in our world a lifestyle business. You cannot sell a lifestyle. So when time came to sell, she approached a few buyers who didn't even put an offer. They were very hesitant. And the reason was it because she needed to be replaced in too many phases of her business. She got the feedback. She didn't like it, but she started working it. And for 2 years, she made a commitment to change her entire operation. So what she did was she invested a lot into this inventory management system that automated a lot of things. And automated the stock updates, the orders, and everything that had to do with inventory. She also hired and trained a crew to handle the logistics and returns. She spent a lot of time with a newly hired customer service rep on getting over all the customer requests to make sure that everybody's getting responded to. After all this work, she built this company that was not depending on her anymore. She could let that company go for months, and they will be totally fine. And most of the people that we're talking to, they're saying the same thing. My company is running so well, why would I sell it now? And as a matter of fact, I had the conversation with one of my friends today, as I'm concentrating on revenue and profits more than sellability of my business. But we have to understand as business owners, there are tiers. What are we growing to? So if you have a business that you can sell for 5, and Jen actually can say more about it, but when you sell a business for $10 million, and you use some of those money to actually not found another business, but get into a bigger acquisition, a business that, let's say, it's a 50, 60, $70 million, there's more profits coming out of the business, and you're at a totally different level. So growing yourself professionally could be a major reason for you to sell, even if you have a business that works for you without your involvement. And that's what Elaine did. She went back to the market, the buyers seeing a great company that could run without Elaine being involved, and they placed a very significant offer. Another major strategy to maximize the value of your business is scalability. Buyers want to acquire a business that it's not just valuable today, but it's also poised for future growth. They look to see if your product or service can grow in different geographical areas or in underserved markets, or you can come up with new products or new services. James owned this high-end furniture company who's manufacturing custom-built pieces from locally sourced materials. James started this on his own. So again, you have the same situation where he was on top of the entire production. She wanted to make sure, she was a perfectionist. She wanted to make sure that everything is perfect, and his customers and the long line of followers are very happy with it. In over 20 years, she built a strong revenue and a good client base. I remember when I met with him, she didn't even have to do any marketing because people were coming to him. She didn't have to do much about it. But unfortunately for him, he was involved in every phase of the production. He was buying the material. He was making sure the production is done right based on his criteria, and the product is being delivered the way he wanted it. We discussed with him, we gave him a feedback that there is no point to go on the market just because it doesn't have a saleable business. And again, he was one of those guys that took our feedback very well and went back and rebuilt his business. In his case, it took 3 years because he hired a very high-skilled production manager who was overseeing the entire operation. He also identified and trained designers who could actually share the vision that he had. He created manuals for the rest of the staff to follow, so the quality is still the same as he was back when he was on top of things. After this rebuilding period, we went back to the market, and not surprisingly, he got a very, very good offer. As a matter of fact, we had the bidding war, and we got him out at a very good price. But more importantly for him was not the price, but it was really the product. Because again, he started off when he was almost a kid, and he wanted that to drive. Moreover, the new team with him came up with a semi-custom line of furniture that was easily to be manufactured, easier and faster to be manufactured, and also to be sold to a different broad of client. Because of all that, he didn't just have, again, a risk-averse company poised to grow, but also something that could be scalable to different markets and different client base. One thing that has been neglecting from what we see is transferability. Buyers want to have a business that is easy to take over. They want to make sure that you have everybody in place to handle the business independent of you. They look at your system, they look at your staff. They want to make sure that you're not handling key relationships, or your business is not growing based on personal connections or things that you do on your own without the other team members to know about. They want to see all those documentations, all those processes to make sure that it's safe for you to leave the business. And we had Angela. She ran a company called BB Media. She started off when she was in college, and in 12 years, she became one of the top players in the digital marketing arena. That was 4 years ago. The problem when you start something from your college, you don't want to let things go. So all the best clients that the business had, or her own personal clients, she handled that directly, and actually she took pride for it. She was always the top performer in the entire agency because her clients were the top tier clients. When we talked to her, she realized that if a buyer were to step in, they see the risk of them losing revenue just because some of those clients like Angela. They like her personality, they like the way she handles things. So it wasn't safe to even put it on the market. However, she started working on creating new opportunities for her staff. She hired people to take her relationships over. She had to spend time to train them. She had meetings with her top clients and also with the staff members to all take over those relationships. She monitored those for a year to making sure that the clients are staying with the business. She wrote a manual about onboarding and client retention to make sure that everybody in the staff will follow the same guidelines. After 2 years, she came back, and we had something that we could sell. We put it back on the market, and not surprising for us, she got a 40% offer higher than what her first initial expectation was. Again, if you make it easy to transfer for a buyer, they will pay a premium. Timing. When should you exit? We're getting this question a lot. And contrary to what everybody believes, now it's fair to say probably 90% of this room believes that they should not sell on their business or the industry is booming. That's actually the time when you sell. Because what happens in the marketplace, there is this booming period that kind of levels out. This is where you get the saturation and then get the decline. Guess what? Most of the people want to sell when the decline happens because they don't make as much money they used to make when the booming happened. So we had a client, Lindsay. She was a user of healthy products, healthy foods. She was gluten allergic, so she was always looking for gluten-free products. And when she saw when she saw demand surge on that line, she decided to open her own business. After several years, she became one of the most important players in the local market. Her products were being sold in major health food stores across the nation. She also picked an eye on the industry trends, and she observed that a lot of big food companies are actively acquiring her competition. At that point, even though it didn't work with her timeline, she decided to prepare to sell. She felt like that was the best time, and she was right, because by doing so, she engaged several buyers. They're really starting a bidding competition. And I'm telling you what, every time when you have an exit and you have a bidding competition between your buyers, that's the best time to sell, right? And that's what makes you the happiest. So in this case, she accepted the highest offer. But more importantly for her is that she left a legacy behind. Her products are still in the store under the same name. The company the buyer who acquired the company left the name untouched. So those products are still there, at the Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and everywhere else. At the end of the day, exiting your business is one of the most important decisions you'll ever make. And it's not just about the money you make, but it's about maximizing value, your legacy, and the people, and taking care of the people who helped you to get to the level you are. Thank you.